Welcome, everyone, to the SIG Node meeting on February 10th, 2026. Starting us off, we have Radiston. Take it away.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a few questions about the CAP. So I've been working through some of the comments that we have, and essentially this section here is something that I'm trying to update. Peter, your comment here is that essentially running is not a state. I assume that ready it would be a allowed transition, but yeah, one thing is in the current implementation that we have as proof of concept. Essentially, what we do is we freeze, we pause the container. Essentially, we use the cgroup freeze mechanism to essentially pause all containers inside of the pod, and then we create checkpoints. We don't currently change the state of the pod, but I'm not sure if essentially how to describe this in the proposal itself. And I was wondering if you have any advice on that.
Yeah, I mean, running sort of is a state, but there are more states underneath running because there's like multiple different kinds of containers within a pod. So there's the init container phase where it's going to iterate through all the init containers. And then there's, the containers then it's like there's the containers are starting, but they haven't fully started yet. And that takes some time. And then the containers, both the sidecar containers and the normal containers are running. And so what I wanted to tease out there was are there points in the pod setup process that we want to not allow checkpointing?
Yeah.
Because it'll complicate, the pod state transitions, basically.
Yeah, I think this was also one of the comments about ephemeral containers, that ephemeral containers should not be allowed during the checkpointing phase. And yeah, what would be the best way to, should we describe to list all allowed transitions, or should we keep this essentially vague, or what is the best approach here?
Yeah, I would recommend we start small and basically just say the kubelet in its sync pod method, or rather the kubelet when it's handling the checkpoint request will deny a request if all of the containers are not running or have not started, basically. And there is an ephemeral container. Basically try to narrow the scope to what we would consider running, which could potentially exclude some use cases. Like I can imagine a warm start situation that a user might want the init containers to have run, but maybe not the normal containers or something like that. But I think we exclude that for now and address it later, basically.
Okay, and in terms of test one, essentially, is it enough to have, for example, unit tests for the core functionality and essentially for the feature gate? Or essentially, is that the only thing that we need, or anything else?
Well, eventually we'll need end-to-end tests as well, but for the first alpha, we won't have CRI implementation support. So we'll only be able to do unit tests. You could spoof it a little bit with the CRI proxy, but it might get a little bit weird. So I would recommend starting with unit tests, and then have it as a target for alpha 2 to have EDE tests with the feature on and a CRI implementation that supports it.
Okay, and I think Victoria, she's also on the call, wanted to discuss something. Vicky, do you want to discuss your comment that you had? Okay. Yeah. I mean, I can discuss this with her offline. Thank you, Peter. This is everything from my side.
Great, thank you. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So next up, we have the Wrangler update. There's a handful of keps that need some attention from various people. So if you see your name in this list, I think this is also not a comprehensive list, but it is definitely a good start. Definitely, um, I think that all of these are not in a state that could be considered like waiting on author, but it's waiting for someone to review or approve.
I made
So
a
if you have,
pass earlier in the day and approved some low-hanging ones, and I'm looking at the ones assigned to me in this list. Uh, yeah.
awesome, thank you, Mrinal. Yeah, and yeah, and definitely any reviewers and approvers use the list as the sort of you know the source of truth in terms of who's assigned to what, and yeah, and I'm also making my way through reviews and stuff, and I'll probably start poking approvers when I feel like the um, issues are ready. So sorry about me pestering everyone about that. Okay, so yeah, but it's the release is looking good. Um, code freezes tomorrow, or feature freezes tomorrow or Thursday. I forget.
I think it's on Thursday.
I
Uh,
think it's end of day Wednesday.
end of day anywhere on Earth. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So tomorrow, wherever midnight is for you, or the latest midnight that exists tomorrow. Okay, cool. Um, next up, we have Dikshita, a memory
Hi.
QS.
Yes. I wanted to raise a concern about the current design of the cap. When we were initially working on this cap, I couldn't add the comments around the usage of memory.min being mapped to the memory request. But this is something that we might want to investigate and look into before doing a beta of this cap. So what memory.min does is, if the kernel is not able to reclaim any memory from elsewhere, the node would be in a block state. Basically, memory.min is for hard guarantees, while memory.low is something that I propose could be better if we map the memory request to memory.low. So, yeah, I just want to raise a concern that I'm not comfortable with the beta here, and I wanted to see if anyone else here is aware of the current status of the cap, and would also I'll go ahead and also drop my detailed comments on the cap to clearly state what the concerns are. But as of now, does anyone know what's the status on the cap and why we are planning to do a beta in 136 instead of another alpha?
Yeah, I think the only reason we were pushing to beta is it felt as though my understanding of the holdups were for memory dot high rather than memory dot min. So I wasn't aware of the memory dot min concerns that you had. Um, I do know that there's an open conversation, or it's like perhaps on the way to being closed, but your point maybe reopens it, about having kubelet configuration fields to toggle the behavior here. And we came to the consensus that we would have the memory stalled ratio. What is that name? Anyway, we would use an existing kubelet configuration field to turn off memory.high
Mm-hmm.
if the admin wants to, but we did not include that for memory.min because we weren't aware of the concern. So I definitely would be open to doing another alpha and either changing the semantic to use memory.low or have it be toggleable in the kubelet configuration field, or maybe both actually if we're going to do another alpha anyway. I don't
Yeah,
know. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, I think that sounds reasonable, but my point is we might want to reassess the entire cap design again, because as we delved a little bit deeper into how memory.min and memory.low work, it felt like it might be worth mapping memory request for best effort pods to memory.low while mapping the request for guaranteed pods to memory.min, because the min C group provides some hard guarantees while the low provides softer guarantees. So if we have to do another alpha, do we have enough time to assess that? Or should we have a discussion here about the design and then do another alpha in 137?
Good question. Yeah, I mean, Chi or Sohan, do you have any thoughts? Do you want to chime in about anything?
We did initial testing about the memory.min. We just simply like have multiple pods on the memory limited node and try to see if the memory.min over committed. With me and Sohan, we didn't find the issue and haven't think about remap it to memory.low.
Okay. So theoretically, I think that if there are a lot of over provisioned pods, or if the user doesn't set memory requests correctly, um, there might be an issue of node being in a locked state, because the kernel would prioritize system failures here instead of reclaiming memory if memory.min is set. While if we map memory request to memory.low, the kernel would try to reclaim memory from elsewhere first, and if it is not able to reclaim that memory, it would go ahead and reclaim the memory from the pods. This is what I think is how it should work theoretically, but I wanted to see some experiments around, or maybe I could do it myself, but I needed some time to assess how memory.low versus memory.min would work for our use case, where we want to map memory request from pod spec to one of the C group values. Are you able to point me to any experiment results that would help here?
Maybe we draft a document, list out the corner cases we need to test and assess that.
Okay, sounds good. So I'll go ahead and drop my detailed comments so that there is a little bit clarity around what I'm trying to say, and then we can maybe discuss on the cap.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I
Sounds
think
good.
if we're planning on doing another alpha, like I think it would be ideal if we got, the exact approach figured out in enhancement season, but I think that we have an amount of flexibility if we want to try to just say like we're going to do another alpha, we need to like do this experimentation to see what the mixture of memory.low versus memory.min versus like how do we have the admin configure it, and do that experimentation, while we're implementing it, and then update the KEP if we need to. Like I feel like KEPs, the implementation of KEPs frequently do change what's agreed upon in an enhancement season, as long as the scope is not wildly blown out of proportion, or and we're not advancing the stage. I think that could be okay. So would that also be something that could make sense to you, Dixie?
I think so. So yeah, if we do another alpha, I think it looks good. We could anyway proceed with what we are planning to do around memory.high stuff, right? Like the live lock, addressing the live lock scenario. So some progress would anyway be better than, like waiting to discuss how the implementation would look like. And then if there are any concerns around, I'm not sure if we already have implementation figured out around if we want to use memory.low instead of memory.min. I mean, if there are any significant changes to switch the C group values, maybe we can do one more alpha in 137 if needed. But I'm good with what you said about going ahead with doing an alpha. And then if there are any concerns, we could do another alpha. If not, we could just go ahead with data in 137.
Cool, that works for me. Sataris, your hand?
Yeah, my question is, thanks for sharing this finding. I was not aware, but Dixit, I'm just wondering, would it make sense to leave it to the end user which one behavior prefers? Does this make sense and be configurable?
I think so. So I will add a little bit more because I have not done a very thorough research, so I might not be able to provide very concrete inputs. But this is what Alibaba does. They and a few other cloud providers, this is what they do. They allow the users to specify whether they want hard guarantees versus soft guarantees for their pods. So it might be worth doing that, but I'm not sure how much of change that would be.
Yeah, and your point about branching on the different QoS classes is interesting as well. Like I can imagine it could be useful to have it be, have either some sort of mapping between QoS class and like hard or soft guarantee, or have different sort of profiles that we sort of support. I'm open to either of those. Yeah, but I think I do agree that it would be useful to have some data on it. So yeah, but I definitely could be open to having that be configurable. If there are cases where some people would want, the stricter guarantees versus something softer.
Right. Yeah. So if we plan to do that, I mean, if we plan to change the design significantly, then we might have to do another alpha in 137. But otherwise, doing the alpha instead of beta is what I would recommend, at least in 136.
I mean, and
Because
another option that exists for us in 137 is if we feel like memory.high semantics, we feel like locking in, we could potentially branch the 2 feet, like we could separate the features, have a new feature gate for the memory.low/min stuff, do another alpha on that end, but then go to beta with the memory.high stuff. That's also an option, I would say. But yeah, that's a 137 discussion. We'll see how far we get with 136, I think.
sounds good. Yeah.
Cool. Thank
Sorry
you
for
for
very
bringing up.
last minute pushback because I just saw the update on the KEP recently that we are planning to do a beta.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no worries. Thank you for the feedback. Okay. Yeah, so that is the end of the agenda. Does anyone have any other things you wanted to talk through synchronously the day before Cap Freeze? One just sort of piece on Cap 5825, the CRI pagination. We've had some discussions on the different way, like basically the version skewing between kubelet and CRI. And we have come up with a slightly updated approach to basically have the kubelet be able to tell the CRI implementation that it's willing to take a paginated list call. So if anyone has not been paying attention in the last day or so, it's changed a little bit. But I'm feeling like I'm pretty ready to leave. It looks good to me, so I'm gonna poke and approve. I think Don was the one on this one pretty soon. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight that. Great. Any other thoughts? Okay. I guess we can all get back to KEP review. Thank you everyone for joining. See you online.
Thank you.
Thank you.